Hello, this is Bill. Welcome back. In this video, you'll learn how to create a slideshow, and we'll use a little action script to help create this Flash movie. We'll go ahead and take a look at it. Here's my Flash movie running. We're going to create two navigation buttons, and when I hit next, we're going to go forward through the buttons, and when I hit back, we'll go step backwards through the images there. Okay, now that we know what we want to create, I'll close my Flash movie, I'll close my Flash file, and I'll come along and create a new Flash file, and I'm going to use ActionScript 2.0. Well, the first thing I need to do is get those images into my library. To do that, I'll come up here to File, I'll go to Import, and I'll go Import to Library. I'm going to go ahead and highlight Girl 1, hold the Shift key down, and highlight Girl 5, and that's going to grab all 5 of those, and when I hit Open, it's going to import those into my library. At this point, let me go ahead and open up my library. To do that, I'll come up here to Window, and I'll choose Library. Okay, at this point, I want to get each one of these pictures on its own layer, and I'm going to be starting off here with Layer 1. So I'm going to simply drag that over, and I'm going to use my Align window to help me position this. To do that, I'm going to come here to Window, and I'm going to choose Align, and I'm simply pressing this little button right here, which will align the left edge, and the one right below that will align the top edge. Okay, that was my first frame. I'm now going to insert a keyframe here on frame 2, and from now on, I'm going to go ahead and simply press F6 here to insert a keyframe. And so let me go ahead and drag this picture onto frame 2. Again, I'll align the left and the top. Highlight frame 3, press F6 to insert a keyframe. Drag my picture over, align the left, and align the top. Highlight frame 4, same thing, F6, drag the picture over, and align the left and the top. And finally, onto frame 5, F6 for a keyframe, drag the picture, align the left, and align the top. Okay, at this point, let's go ahead and display it and see what we've got here. I'm going to come up here to Control, Test Movie, and we can see it's just looping through these images kind of endlessly here. Okay, so the next step, what I'm going to do is throw a stop. So all it does is comes along and displays this first picture and then stops. And how am I going to do that? I'm going to go along and create a new layer, and I'm going to call this layer my Actions. Okay, and on this layer, I'm going to come along and highlight frame 1. I'm on my Actions layer, frame 1, and I'm going to insert a stop. To do that, I'm going to come down to Window, Actions, and let me minimize these so it's kind of like the way you would first see it. I'm going to press on Global Functions, I'm going to press on Timeline Control, and I'm going to come right down here and double click on Stop. And now we've added a stop. So I'm going to go ahead and close this. I'll come back, come up to Control, test my movie, and now what happens is rather than kind of repeatedly displaying images running through those frames, it's going to display the first frame and stop. Let me come along and double click on this layer, and I'm going to call this one my Images. And at this point, I'm going to go ahead and lock these two layers just so I don't accidentally do anything there. Okay, at this point, I'm going to go along and press on the Insert layer, and I'm going to insert another layer called Control, and this is where I'm going to be inserting those navigation buttons. And I'm going to go ahead and drag this layer below my images. I'm going to make that my bottom layer. Okay, well, I need to create a couple navigation buttons. To do that, I'm going to press on this little plus sign over here. Looks like a little plus sign for an icon. Go ahead and press on that, and I'm going to go ahead and create two navigation buttons. The first one is going to be called my back button, and I can see it's a type button, and I'll go ahead and press OK. And I'll just go ahead and create a red button. So I'll press and hold, press down on this, and I'll choose red for my fill color. I can see I've got my stroke turned off. I've already got my rectangle tool set to a rounded rectangle, so I'm just going to come along and drag out a little rounded red rectangle. Okay, at this point, I'm going to go ahead and change my fill color to white. I'll press on my type tool, and I'll simply type in back. And I'll use my selection tool, and then the arrow keys on my keyboard to help me position that text there. And I've got some other videos in this series talking about rollovers and animated rollovers. I'm just going to try and create these buttons really quickly. So all I'm going to do is come up here to my overstate. I'm going to press F6, and my downstate F6 to insert some keyframes. So there's nothing fancy going on here. I just got some buttons here. Okay, so my back button is finished. At this point, I'm going to go ahead and right-click on my back button. I'm going to choose Duplicate, and I'm going to simply call this one my Next button, and I'll come along and press OK. And I'm going to come down here, double-click on Next button to make sure that's what I'm working on. And I'm going to come up here and delete my over. The bottom line is I want to change this from back to say next. Rather than doing that 3 times, I'm just going to do this once. So I'm going to delete these 2 frames, click them, and right-click. That was a right-click, and choose Remove Frames. I'll come back here to my up frame. I'll choose my Type tool, and I'm going to come along and just simply have this say next. Okay, I'm now going to go ahead and simply press F6 and F6 to insert some keyframes there, and my navigation buttons at this point are finished. So I'm now going to come back to scene 1, and I'm going to drag out my 2 buttons. I'm going to drag out my back button and my next button. Whoops. Let me go ahead and close these 2 windows here. I think I'm finished with those anyway, and I'll go ahead and get that displayed here. And I'll kind of slide these over just a little bit there. Okay, at this point I'm ready to begin working on my back and my next button. And I'll go ahead and start off here with my next button. I've got, you can see I'm on my controls layers. I've got my next button selected, and I'm going to come up here and I'm going to choose Window, Actions. And on this one, all I'm going to do is come up here to Global Functions, Movie Clip Controls, and I'm going to double click on, and I'll double click here or press here on Release. Actually, that was a double click there. Okay, I'm now going to come after that little curly bracket, and I chose Next, so I'm going to go ahead and type in Next Frame, open parenthesis, close parenthesis, semicolon. And at this point, I'll go ahead and close my ActionScript window, and I'm now going to come to Back, and I'll kind of repeat that process. I'll come up here to Window, I'll choose Actions, I'll double click on, double click on Release, come out here after the kind of curly bracket, and now I'm going to type Previous Frame, open parenthesis, close parenthesis, semicolon, and I'll go ahead and close this window out, my action window. Well, let's go ahead and take a look at it. I'm going to come here to Control, I'm going to choose Test Movie, and what we're going to find is my next button is going to allow me to go. It's going to allow me to go from frame 1 to 5, and that's all. So if I press the next button, it's going to come to frame 5 and stop. Or I can press my back button, and I can come to frame 1 and stops. And it doesn't allow me to kind of loop through like I would like to. So I'm going to go ahead and close this. And what's happening now is when I get to frame 1, that's as far as back as I go. When I get to frame 5, I can't go any further. So I'm going to insert some keyframes here. That's F6, 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 and F6 here. And now what I can do is come along on frame 1, and let me highlight the back button here. So on frame 1, I'm going to have some code here that allows me to jump back to frame 5. So I'm going to go. I'm on my back button, and I'm on frame 1, and let me come along and open up my Actions window again. And at this point, I'm going to come down here to Timeline Control, and I'm going to highlight this code right here and replace that with a go to and stop. Okay, and what am I going to do here is I'm going to simply come here and insert a 5. So I'm on frame 1, I can now back up, wrap it around to the end of frame 5, and at which point I can continue. And let me go ahead and close this one. And I need to repeat that process for something very similar here to my next button. And on this case, I'm going to highlight frame 5, press here on the stage. I just want to get to the next button. So I'm on frame 5, I'm on my next, and I want it to wrap around to frame 1. It's kind of from frame 5 to frame 1. To do that, I'm going to come up here to Window, choose my Actions window again, and I'm going to highlight this code, and then replace that with a go to and stop. And I'm going to simply insert a 1 there, and I'll go ahead and close this out. Okay, let's go ahead and check our, hopefully this is the final product. I'm going to come here to Control. I'm going to go to Test Movie. I'm going to go to Next. I'm going to see if I can just kind of keep going to the end. Pass. I can see I'm going all the way around. Press on my back button, and it's allowing me to kind of go past. So when I get to frame 1, I can now wrap around back to frame 5, or when I'm on frame 5 and I press Next, it can come back to frame 1. Well, that concludes this video. Hopefully you now know how to create a slideshow. I'll catch you in the next video. Thank you.